Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Tuesdays with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. And now your host, Brian Tally.
Welcome back to Tuesdays with Tally Podcast, where we add real-life value to the lives of everyday people. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. We are on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Anchor FM, and Spotify. Simply search Tuesdays with Tally and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to get every episode and stay up to date with the latest and greatest our guests in this show has to offer. Now, folks, today is 127 days since the inception of this brand new podcast. And Morgan Luttrell is the 91st episode, 91 episodes in 127 days. Yes, folks, the obsession is real. We continue to add real life value to the lives of everyday people to improve your life, to get you off the couch, to get you off the sidelines and into the game. Folks, are you a business owner? Because if you are, I'm talking directly to you right now. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Email me today, thetallybill@gmail.com. That's thetallybill@gmail.com. Let's sit down, have a conversation. And again, let's advertise your business right here on this podcast. Let me help you reach your goals. Let's put a marketing plan together and develop a strategy to take your business to the next level. Now, folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. Morgan Luttrell is a fifth-generation Texan that was raised on a horse ranch at an early age. Morgan learned the importance of hard work, discipline, and personal responsibility. He turned his strong values, deep love for America, and passion for helping others into a career of distinguished service. After graduating from Willis High School, Morgan earned his bachelors in psychology from Sam Houston State University. But he found his calling when he enlisted in the U.S. Navy to become a U.S. Navy SEAL. From BUDS, which is SEAL training, to Officer Candidate School, Morgan excelled as the top grad, no matter what the challenge was. He served multiple combat deployments and led his troops as a Naval Special Warfare Officer. In 2009, by the grace of God, Morgan survived a deadly helicopter crash that left him with a broken back and a traumatic brain injury. Determined to get back in the fight with his teammates, Morgan rehabbed, recovered, and returned to the front lines. Following an honorable 14-year military career, Morgan retired from the Navy in 2014 and applied his personal success and experience to help his fellow veterans recover from PTSD and traumatic brain injuries sustained in battle. After achieving an advanced degree in applied cognition and neuroscience at the University of Texas at Dallas, Morgan created an innovative health and wellness platform helping veterans heal from their physical and psychological injuries. Morgan's work with the Boot Campaign, a Texas-based nonprofit, caught the attention of former Texas Governor Rick Perry, who had recently been appointed by President Donald J. Trump to lead the Department of Energy. Secretary Perry appointed Morgan to serve as a special advisor at the Department of Energy. Across two wars, healing fellow veterans and leading 21st century technological advances in President Trump's Department of Energy, Morgan has poured every ounce of himself into protecting America and saving as many lives as he can. He's ready for his next mission, and that's serving as your next congressman. With that, we are honored to be joined by U.S. Navy combat veteran and Congressman-Elect Morgan Luttrell. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm good, buddy. Thank you for that most eloquent introduction. Good. Life is great. I have no complaints whatsoever. I always tell people ask me how the day is going. Is anything challenging? You frustrated? Like, you know what? Nobody's shooting at me. Life's good.
Yeah, you're not.
That's
you're not going down in a helicopter. Yeah,
you know,
you're not going down in a helicopter.
Yeah. If nobody's shooting at us, hey, it's not that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta. Sometimes in life, you gotta just put it into perspective. You know, you got your family, got your beautiful family there by your side, and you were just elected to lead, you know, the Texas 8th congressional district.
Yes.
You know, you're very decorated and distinguished man. You're a leader, and you understand the you know, what services and what sacrifices, and growing up at a very early age and knowing what responsibility is and love of the country. You know, especially being here from the Willis, Texas area. Now, I want to get started with you. You've done so much in life, and I want people to maybe understand and maybe learn a little bit more about Morgan Luttrell than they may not have known. And so, tell me what it was like growing up in Willis, Texas, as a kid.
It's a lot smaller town. It's definitely grown substantially, but easy country living. We were the smallest 4A high school in the state of Texas when I was there. And we just, you know, life was exciting. Marks and I grew up early age on a horse ranch. Mom and dad, they instilled responsibility. We had to go up every morning and feed the horses, and we had to feed the horses when we got home off the school bus. We were on the bus at 6 a.m. and got back around 4:30, and then it was chores, homework, and then ready to kick it off all over again. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. You know, I actually complained a lot, if I remember correctly, being a boy, having to feed those horses, feed water, take care of all those animals. But it definitely taught my brother and I time management, responsibility, and work ethic. We, you know, I was a little bitty guy, so I was like, I think I might be the only guy that's 6'3", 230 nowadays that didn't play football in the state of Texas. And Marcus and I were little bitty guys, and we were athletes nonetheless. But you know, tennis was our tennis. You know, if you can believe that was our sport of choice, and wasn't too bad at that. But grew up as kind of a multidisciplinary athlete: track, basketball, baseball, and tennis. Rode dirt bikes, rode horses, rode bicycles, and then after graduating from high school in '94. I attended Sam Houston State University, which is just down the road. You know, so I'm a Wildcat and a Bearcat, and grew up and did all my education and most of it where I grew up. So that was fun. I always had my buddies around, and if I needed to get back from school, go home, do some laundry, mom and dad were just down the road about an hour. I tell everybody when they ask the similar question that you did, is like, I grew up no named, no. The only thing that makes us, and in my opinion, the majority of every male, the majority of all the men in our family served in the military. And so it was always like, that was like our path. You know, your daddy and granddaddy and uncles, and they were like, hey, look, you know, there's nothing more honorable than serving your country. If you want something to be free, you got to fight for it. So kind of always in the cards, but never the SEAL thing. You know, back in those days, nobody knew what a SEAL was. Nobody knew, especially from Willis. You know, there's no way you could make it, especially if you didn't play football or you weren't a wrestler. But I think my twin brother and I, Marcus, we're not going to be denied. And coming from what most consider would just be a small country town with no DNA or no name recognition, really started to pave the road and widen it as well on the challenges that most people think are unattainable. You know,
Morgan, your childhood instilled the discipline in you that would further set you up for your life of success. Now, before we get into all that success, I've got one question for you. Who was tougher growing up, you or Marcus?
Definitely my brother. He was always bigger than me too, which I'm the older brother, about 7 minutes, but he was always bigger. If you ask him that same question, he'll probably say Morgan was, but it was definitely him.
You know, what? 7 minutes. I love it. And can you just tell a story to our listeners about when your son, I think, was being born, and you had to get across the state lines, right? And you had to.
I did, yeah.
Can you explain that one? That's my favorite story.
I'm a fifth generation Texan, and that's a big deal in our family. My wife and I were stationed in Virginia Beach, Virginia, when our firstborn son was getting ready to come out. And my wife ended up being false labor pains, but went into labor pains. And I put her in the truck and drove her from Virginia to Texas so he could be born in the state of Texas as 6th generation Texan. And I would tell my brother, I was like, hey, look, we're in Virginia. We're in this window. Leslie can't fly. I need you to send a bucket of dirt, a flag, and a certificate from the governor to say, hey, look, this young man is a Texas citizen. And my brother was like, negative. Feet on the deck in Texas. So we hauled the mail. We hit Texarkana. And I looked over and I was like, let it ride, baby girl. We're good. And he showed up. He actually showed up a week later. But 6 generations, we are die-hard Texans.
Man, 6 generations. That
generations.
kind of reminds me.
It's kind of funny. It's a contest too, because every once in a while, like, conversations will come up, and I run into 2 9s.
Wow.
And I was like, that's impossible. One of them was original landowner in Texas. I was like, good gracious. But he had children and children, so there's 11 on the deck, which that's impressive. And then I got into a back and forth with a lady. She was 7th generation, and I was like, well, but her family, one of her family members fought in the Alamo.
Wow.
Yeah, you got it. That's man. You take the cake on that one.
Right. Yeah, that's how it is. It's like people will get into arguments about what generation Texan you are and how good your brisket is, right?
Exactly. I mean, what kind of barbecue sauce do you use? Because is your chili with or without beans? I mean, it can go on and on.
Oh yeah, yeah, man, I love it. Well, listen, you would end up joining the Navy, and I just want to know what inspired you to take that path.
I always knew that Marcus and I did all this stuff together. I mean, the twin thing, but we always knew that we were going to join the military. And our daddy was in the Navy, so the Navy thing was kind of just on our radar, more or less. And when we were in our early teens, we saw a documentary over SEALs. And I tell you what, just the narrator and how he was talking and saying what the SEALs did. And of course, if you can remember, it was a Discovery Channel special way back in them days. And hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I was like, "That's what we're doing. We're going for that." And everyone's a naysayer, right? First of all, nobody knew what that was. Secondly, when you dig into it, it's like the hardest thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's impossible. Nobody can do this." And hardly, the attrition rate is this, and only 1 out of 100 make it. Blah blah blah. Everybody's always kind of stacking the cards against you, but yeah, we would not be denied. And we started training late high school all through college. And Marcus left before I did enlisted, and then I followed suit 2 years ago and enlisted after him after I finished college. And never look back.
The incredible thing here is that, look, most twins, I can understand them dressing the same, but to have 2 twins to say, hey, we're going to go be Navy SEALs and both pass and both want to have that same mindset. Like, how does that even happen? I mean, like, I don't think I've ever heard anything like this before.
I think that
it's very unique.
The twins are a special breed. Marcus and I's motto is from the womb to the tomb. I've known him. And my wife's heard me say this, so she won't be mad at me. But I didn't have to go looking for my soulmate. I was born with him. When God put us on the planet together, he's like, I will pass these 2 angels together. And we've been like that ever since. And our mom and our family, but our mother and father was like, hey, no matter what, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, you will have each other. And don't ever do that. So he and our paths have been the same our whole lives. And the first time that I had never seen him each and every day was when he left for the Navy. So that was very challenging, but always knowing that eventually I was going to catch up to him. I mean, we could sit here and just kind of whiteboard a lot of things. Like when he was involved in his accident over in Afghanistan, he broke his back. And then that was in 2005. In 2009, I broke my back, and I broke the exact same vertebrae he did, 6 of them, not in order. So, he and I, when he was missing, I was telling people, like, hey, my brother's still alive. He's hurt. He's scared, but he's alive. It's just that kinship. And I say my parents had a lot to do with that because they always said, you have your brother's back. He's always going to be here for you. And that was always back for you. We've carried that in. We raised our sons that way. So thanks, Mom and Dad.
Morgan, you survived a deadly helicopter crash, and it left you with a broken back and a traumatic brain injury. Now, this accident would change the trajectory of your life forever. And most men would go find that chair and sit in that chair because you had an out there. You know, I broke my back. I've got TBI really bad now, and, you know, I'm just going to hang it up. But you did something, again, that's very unique. You got up and you went to college to learn about the neurological system and to learn about traumatic brain injury so you could literally help understand what it was you had and how you can not only begin to heal yourself, but to heal others. Can you explain a little bit about that?
After the accident, you know, I was frogman to the bone, to the core, and I lived every second of it, and that's all I ever wanted to be. And then the physical injuries what actually ended up inevitably pushing me out into retirement. And along the way, when I was going through rehab for my physical injuries, the cognitive piece was something that we back then didn't really focus on. I mean, you understood that TBI existed, and it, but nobody knew because we don't know how the brain works. So cognitive neuroscience back in those days was very taboo. So when the writing was on the wall that it was time to exit the military, I actively pursued higher education in brain science, just because I wanted to not only learn how the brain functioned, but what was in place in order to bring Morgan back to baseline. You know, get me back to where I remember being. And as we've progressed from 2010 till now, I mean, brain science has just exploded, the things that we understand and that we can do. And when it comes to brain injury, brain insult, brain disease, but I was not. I didn't really know anything about, you know, when I was in undergrad, I took psychology and I just did that because there wasn't any math in it. So getting into the brain, that was something that I really had. I mean, I was at the table 8, 10, 12 hours a day trying to learn everything that these scientists understood. And because every single brain's different. And that's what I always tell my veterans when I'm talking to them. I was like, I can't just give you a cookie cutter treatment because you're different. That's what makes everybody special. That 3 to 5 pound gelatinous substance between your ears you're very unique to you, to me, to everyone. And so I started traveling the country to different institutes, clinics, hospitals, and research facilities, learning about the different modalities that were out there and just putting tools in a proverbial toolbox to fix me. And then it transcended from there. And then that really started getting back into the veteran space and sharing what I had learned and helping my other brothers and sisters out that were going through something similar, because traumatic brain injury is different than post-traumatic stress. You know, I categorize it. I'll never take credit for this, but I like to say that I invented the big five: that's post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, chronic pain, addiction, and insomnia. You know, those 5 things, one can be a catalyst for the other. One can exacerbate another one. And it's what we see statistically in our veterans, just given the dynamics of the wars that we fought. And we weren't treating those individually. We're treating those collectively. And that's a problem. I mean, you treat a traumatic brain injury like you treat post-traumatic stress, you're exacerbating the issue. You don't address sleep disorders, you're exacerbating post-traumatic stress, aggression, and anxiety, because if the body doesn't sleep, it doesn't heal itself. And we know that emotional instabilities underneath the post-traumatic stress umbrella are correlated to lack of sleep. And a lot of our veterans, what's the number one issue? I can't sleep. So I started focusing in on that and trying to fix those issues.
I love it. You went through a life-changing event, and instead of feeling sorry for yourself, Morgan Luttrell stood up and educated himself on being not only a person that would better understand what had happened to you, but how to effectively help others as well. And now that's where we're going to head into Congress right now. We could talk about you being a Navy SEAL for hours and hours and hours, but I think a lot of America already knows a lot of that story about you. And what I want to get into now is the work that you're going to be doing in Congress, because look, let's face it, we have 20.2 million American veterans in this country that are going to be looking to you for leadership. They're going to be looking to you as a champion, as a voice, as a strong voice, as a powerful voice. to better serve them and their needs, whether it's at the VA or if it's through educational benefits, or if it's better understanding your body through a traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. Now, I want to know, what are some of the priorities that you are going to be taking in with you as you enter this 118th Congress in January?
That's a great question. And I campaigned on my my agenda early on. For us here in District 8, which is north of Houston, and it spans east and west, and it has a piece of Harris County, border issues are huge here. We're feeling the brunt of what is coming across our southern border, everything from just the body count as well, but the fentanyl and the sex trades and the weapons and the gangs. So I'm actually going after Homeland Security Committee as well as Armed Services. So borders priority number one, but that's easy because that spans the entire southern tips of the United States, and there's a lot of people getting behind us on that one. So that one's easy. But my passion lives if I can land at House Armed Services Committee, bringing back the military is designed for one thing: the defense of our country. It's not designed to cater for your feelings. It's not designed to cater for your emotional instabilities. It's not designed to be socially prevalent. And hey, look, this fad's going on right now. Let's get the military involved in that. No, that's not what the military is designed for. And I want to be a part of the committees that sit down in front of our leadership that in the military and say, hey, look, we're not doing this at all. That just is where this lives. The priorities, it's in veterans. And I've asked for a third committee, VA committee, which is funny because nobody wants to be on the VA committee. But again, my passion. Mm-hmm. If I don't land on that committee, on the VA committee, I'll be very involved in it. I've actually already tried to get over and see the Secretary of the VA. And I told him, I'm not a threat to you unless I need to be. I want to help you. The veteran space should not be political. It should not line in the body politic when it's red versus blue. We are our own dynamic, our own space, and I want to make sure that our veterans are taken care of. So those are my top three priorities. If you were to kind of chip away at it, and the political hot buttons that live and breathe right now are the inflation's out of control. Yeah, we got excessive government spending. Well, hopefully when we have taken the House back, so we can control the appropriations. But that's a team effort, right? The military, the veterans. I want to stand up because, like you said, I represent our veteran community. I think there's around 80 of us now in Congress on both sides. And make no mistake about the freshman class, we've reached across myself, Wesley Hunt, Dan Crenshaw, Jake Elsey, Congressman Babin. We want to talk to all of our veterans and say, hey, look, the deal. There's a mission set here. And that's our country. Let's share our knowledge of what we learned in the military with everyone else so they can understand it. We have to be able to articulate that to everybody, like why this is important. I always tell everybody, like, I can't stand Army Rangers. I mean, it's in my bones. For whatever reason, but Army Rangers saved my brother. They rescued my brother. I've worked with Army Ranger. We're outside the wire. You can't tell the difference between two of us because it's about the mission. And right now, as a congressman, the mission is the country and representing my district. So those are my top three priorities.
Well, those are very good priorities. I mean, again, national security, veterans. I mean, you can't, and of course too, you're, what, fifth generation Texan or sixth?
Yeah, five.
You got to protect Texas. You got to protect the border, right? And so, that's very, very, very important. Now, you're heading in to this Congress. You are a ball of energy, and you're ready to go. I've been watching you through your whole entire campaign process on your Whiteboard Wednesdays. And everything that you are very passionate about is what you talk about. And you, folks, if you don't know Morgan Luttrell, what you see is what you get in Morgan Luttrell. And I quote that from the mayor of Conroe himself. What you see is what you get. He's not going to be hiding behind a suit. If he doesn't want to shave, if he feels better in the 5 o'clock shadow, that's what you're going to get in Morgan Luttrell. You're not going to get somebody who's just going to be, going along to get along, if you will. He's going to do the hard work. He's going to do the stuff that is going to make a difference. He is going to make himself vulnerable to protect and ensure the rights of all veterans and for our country as well, folks. We have got to protect our sovereignty and our liberty and our freedom here in this country. And to have a fighter, a proven fighter like Morgan Luttrell to do that is going to put our country in a much, much better situation than it is right now. Now, you gave me a job, Morgan. You gave me a mission to do about 5 months ago. You said, I want you to reach out to the veteran community, and I want you to report back to me a bunch of findings of what we can do in the VA to better serve our nation's veterans, and what kind of ideas can we put forth? What type of strategy can we come up with here to create maybe some new legislation that will make the VA a better place for all of us? Now, I have done that, and I have compiled all of this information. So now it's just going to take some time for us to sit down in a think tank and to kind of strategize how we're going to put all this stuff together to have introduced in the 118th Congress. Are you looking at perhaps doing that with me soon on sitting down?
I've been telling you that since step off, since almost the day we met. Probably was the day we met. And in the reasons that I ask you to collectively pull that group together is because they're subject matter experts. We're the veterans. I'll just be the one that will hand walk, carry that rucksack through the House and over to the Senate and then back again, and hopefully to the president's desk for signature. Because we can always, I think the only way that we're going to fix the problems in the VA, and there are problems. I'm not bagging on all the VAs, but there's a problem in the VA system. Mm-hmm. That won't be solved by bureaucrats. That won't be solved by, and this is not a dig on anybody, but the veterans are the ones going to fix that, because we know we're the ones that feel it every day. Touch it, taste it, feel it, smell it. And I feel blessed being the one that can champion that, and pulling together my other colleagues on both sides of the aisle, saying, "Hey, this is just better for the veterans," and digging in on that one and carrying it. I'm excited about it too.
Oh yeah, and you're exactly right. What better way to fix an entity like the VA rather than veterans themselves who go through it and experience it every single day. And folks, yes, the VA is not all bad. We're not here to bash the VA. It's not all bad. There's a lot of good stuff that's going on in the VA, but we're looking at ideas on how to make it better, right? Yeah. So nothing is ever going to be perfect. However, if we can put some things together to try to make it a better place for all of us, that's a win-win situation. And again, it takes a special type of champion to pass stuff like bills, especially in the VA. Now, you said that you signed up to be on the VA committee. When do you find out if you were actually going to be a part of that VA committee?
I'll be third week of January. After we swear in, after leadership is elected, then they start handing out committee assignments.
So, and you have signed up for, is it 3 or 4 committee assignments?
3. Normally get 2, depending on if you're an A or a B committee. I've asked for House Armed Services. That's a super B. And then Homeland Security. I've asked for those 2 up front for my 1, 2, and then VA would be my 3rd. Might be challenging, but I've also learned that up there, it's not, you don't have to be involved. You don't have to be a member of a certain committee in order to push legislation through that committee. You just find who's on there and say, hey, look, this is something that we're working on. We're in my district. We would like to push this through the committee for signature. It goes through all the process.
Morgan, we're living in the most divided country in our nation's history, and that can be seen in the Senate. That can be seen in the House. What type of congressman are you going to be when you engage with the 118th Congress to try to work both sides of the aisle again, to work, for the good of the country, to work in the best interest of all Americans without all this grandstanding and all this, infighting. I mean, it's just not healthy for our country. What type of plan and attitude can you take to Congress to bring everybody together?
Yeah. So it's my job to represent my district, which I do. That's the first number one priority. But it's also my job to work along party lines and across the aisle to make everybody understand, hey, this is what my district's all about. This is what we believe in. This is our belief system. This is what we will and won't tolerate. And then understanding that the country as a whole has to come together. I don't want to be the congressman, and I won't be the congressman. And I've already started that through freshman orientation. I'm the quiet guy that sits there, takes it all in, educates myself, and I don't run my mouth. I don't say much right now because it's just like moving into a combat zone. First thing you need to do is stop, look, listen, and feel. Understand the dynamic and understand the narrative, and then make small movements until you understand exactly the chessboard that you're playing on. But being up there and off, away from the media and walking through the halls of Congress, it's people want to work with themselves. I mean, people want to work together. Mm-hmm. And the great part about the veteran space is that there's really no politics in that. Those are spaces that work very well across party lines. The other things that have the political sway and that political firestorm. You're never going to hear me yell. I went after Mayorkas the other day actually because he's failing us miserably on the border and people are dying. If you're that far gone, I'm coming at you. I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna call you out for not doing your job. If you're doing your best by your district and across the country, hey, look, let's come together and figure this out. There has to be a middle ground. You and I have seen it. The places that you and I went and fought, they don't need to be here. We don't need to have a civil war here. We don't need to have this much divisiveness. It hurts my heart.
It does. It hurts my heart every single day. I pray for my country every single day. I pray for my family, my friends, health, peace, love, hope, and joy in our hearts, our nation, and I pray that we come together, divided, we fall, and of course, united we stand. Sure. And that's what we need, and I think your leadership that you're going to be bringing into this 118th Congress is going to be very valuable. And not only the knowledge and the education and your experience that you bring into the table, but it's how you package yourself. We all have great ideas and ways of doing things. But to go in there, like you said, stop, look, listen, and feel. You're getting, you're working a room here, and that's what needs to be happening here because that's how things get done. You're a doer. You're not someone who's going to stand, completely back in the shadows and just stop, look, listen, and feel. But that you're just assessing everything, but you're writing everything down on how we're going to get this thing done and how we're going to get all of these great ideas in this vehicle. But to get it all the way across the finish line, like I said, we all have great ideas, but there's not a lot of people that know how to package it, deliver it. The packaging part is what a lot of people can do, but it's the delivery. How will you deliver for Texas 8?
That's personality, especially up there. There's 435 districts. That's what I was mentioning earlier is like you have to learn the personalities. You have to learn the personality and the district that they represent and understand, hey, look, it's relationship driven up there. Mm-hmm. You have to dig in your heels and say, I will not tolerate this in my district. My district does not want this. And then you have to understand that somebody else from another district, polar opposite of your belief systems, and they're representing their district. And that's the challenge. But like anything else, and I take this something I took from military. You never, don't criticize in public. You praise in public, criticize in private. Understand that I don't yell. I don't get in your face. I don't think that's effective means of leadership. I think healthy debate, information sharing is key. I think we've gotten away from that across party lines. It's just it seems to be a red and blue, and that's unfortunate. And our personality can drive points home that people understand. Like, you know what, I get that. But I want to be on the other side and say, hey, look, I understand exactly what you're saying too. That makes total sense. I don't know why it does. and it's healthy. I don't know what topic that would be. It's easy to hang it on the veterans, but when you talk about everything else that people are kind of freaking out about, something I'm going to have to dig into when I get up there.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly just it. And if people actually took the time to sit down at the same table and break bread and have a simple conversation, people are going to realize that we have a hell of a lot more in common, than we think. A good old song, that Chris Ledoux wrote, hey, sit down and have that conversation. Because without that conversation, we're never going to come together as a country. Because look, let's face it, our country has been at each other's throats for the last 4 years. And again, it hurts my heart as much as it hurts your heart. And I think that's the reason why you are called to serve.
I grew up here. This is my home district, and I'm honored to represent it. I speak the language. You and I live 30 minutes from each other. You understand, and that's important. It's going to be. It's just a true. When I first started doing this, people asked, like, "Why are you doing this?" Like, I don't want to. After going through almost a year and a half of campaigning and then being through freshman orientation, man, it's necessary. It is absolutely necessary out there to have somebody to fight for the beliefs of the district, because guess what? Those other members in those other districts are doing the same thing for theirs. And so you have to have proper representation out here to say, hey, look, District 8 doesn't roll like that.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I admire about you most is that you've always fought honorably. And I think that's what you're going to be bringing to Washington with you. You're going to be bringing, again, leadership and honor and courage and commitment. And you're going to stand up and you're going to fight for what's right for Texas 8, for the state of Texas, and for the United States of America. I mean, because look, when you're working in these committees, you're now representing a very large, group of people. Like if you get on the VA committee, well, now you got 20.2 million American veterans that are going to be looking to you, for guidance and, to have that strong voice. And again, that's all this information that I've compiled from, I think probably close to over 500 veterans that have chimed in and said, hey, I think we can do this. And we all have great ideas. There's so much value out there to be added. It's just, again, it's going through everything. It's dissecting all the issues that could be going wrong out there and to bring that solution to the table. And that's really the job of a lawmaker, right? Is to make our country better, not sit back and grandstand and point fingers and put blame on people and all that. It's not healthy. And I think that's where you're going to bring a new dynamic to the table, because what you said, hey, I speak the language, I know what my people want. I'm a former Navy SEAL. I've been through traumatic type experiences. I have a family. I want what's best for my country. Mm-hmm. And we need men like you in there serving with that mindset. And I think that's what's going to give so many people out there hope. You're a beacon of hope for so many out there.
For sure. Something popped into my head when you were saying that you and I've been in situations where gunfight, somebody's dying. That dude or me, somebody's going away. It never has to go that far, especially when you're talking to your countrymen. Mm-hmm. I keep that in the back of my head that we can figure this out. It never has to be that bad. People. I've often talked to folks in the district and I'm terrified. I'm scared to walk outside. Don't be. Walk outside. It's beautiful outside right now. Walk outside. Take a big old breath of fresh air. Fill your chest, your lungs up. Love your country. Mm-hmm. We have issues. We're a little bit off the reservation at times. But if a man or a woman mess it up, a man or a woman can fix it.
Yeah.
And just always remember, man, live your life. Just live your life every day. Not like it's your last, but like it's the best day of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to be a man of gratitude. Morgan Luttrell has to be a man of gratitude. And I know you are. I mean, again, through your life struggles and battles and your experience and everything you do, honorably here, as a husband and as a father and now as a member of Congress, again, you're going in there to really represent, so much out there for the greater good. And it does take a special man or a special woman to go out and take that challenge head on. Like you said, I didn't want to do this. I didn't really choose this job. It chose me. And I believe that, you are the right man for this job. And, given the circumstances and the time and the history that we are currently in our country. Now, I've walked those very halls of Congress, but mine just didn't come with a paycheck. And I was, in my weakest and most vulnerable time of need. But there's something special about walking those halls of Congress that you just can't explain. And I'm getting goosebumps right now as I'm doing that.
Right.
There's so many people out there who have the great ideas, but they're afraid to get up and engage because they feel as if they don't have a voice, or they're going to be wasting their time and nobody's going to listen to them. And at the end of the day, that's why we went out and we compiled all this information, identify the problem and create the solution. Now, one thing that I did that I think why I was successful is I made myself hard to hate, right? That's exactly what you're going to do. It's like, man, Morgan, that guy is driving me nuts, right? But he's a nice guy. I want to work with Morgan. Even though we don't agree with a lot of things, I can agree with him on this thing or this thing. Find that commonality, right? Mm-hmm. Find that commonality between you and somebody on the opposite side of the aisle, and you're going to realize that you could put some real stuff together again to start putting this country back on track. Because right now our trains are derailed. Right now we got to just come in, we got to pick up the pieces, we got to put it all back together and put it back on the tracks. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that, folks? You got to make yourself hard to hate. You got to go in there. You got to, share a seat at that same table and work together with that purpose and that passion and that plan. Now, I have a few more questions for you. And again, I sincerely appreciate the time and the effort that you're giving us today. Now, how can we support you as Congressman-Elect Morgan Luttrell?
Going forward, it's information sharing. If you don't talk to me or tell me, our line of communication has always been great since step off. That's what as far as supporting me as a congressional member, I need the information so I can do something with it. Mm-hmm. Looking back, when I saw a congressional member either in the military or I saw our congressman here, I thought you weren't allowed to talk to him. That's kind of like, as a congressman, give him a what. And that's not the case at all. I mean, I volunteered. So when I'm out in town, sitting there with my family, my family's all in on this too. If I'm sitting there eating dinner, if I'm at a stoplight, if I'm in the grocery store line, just come up, talk to me and tell me what you need. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you can't read your mind. Right. Your story is so powerful because you were the one that was laying there dying in your chair, and I read your book in one night. I told you that. But your intestinal and physical fortitude is what everybody should mimic. If you're passionate about something and you know that it could affect change, don't ever stop. Mm-hmm. And always know that every door is going to be closed in your face. Everybody's going to say no. But if you keep going, eventually you'll get the yes. You will. A relentless pursuit of something that you're passionate about and you believe in, you can get there. But don't ever think it's supposed to be easy. Don't ever think when you walk in for the first time they're going to say yes. Don't ever think if you walk in for the first time they're like, oh yeah, this is the greatest idea. Let's do this. No. Get ready for abuse. Get ready for defeat. But never, even if they knock you down on your back, at least you're looking up, right? If they put you on the knee, get back up. Because life's designed to put you on your knee and keep you there. Mm-hmm. Those like you that stood up like, hey, look, hit me again, I'm coming. So.
Yeah, you're right. Out of 100 people, and you get 99 no's, and you get that one yes, and that gives you some fuel, and that's what gives you that determination to keep, to stay in the fight, And again, I believed in it so much that I couldn't live with myself knowing what I knew. I just couldn't live with myself, and my story, 7 years next month is when my life kind of started to crumble. But now I look back on it and I'm like, man, I've grown so much. I've grown so much as a man, and as a father and as a husband, as a veteran and as an advocate. I've become a better American. I've gotten so much more involved in not just politics and policy, but also helping those in need who have gone through so much that don't really necessarily know how to effectively communicate, their problems. They just want to go and they want to self-isolate, and they want to live that life of just depression and anxiety in a very dark, dark, dark place. But there is so much out there to be had. And once you figure out what that purpose is in your life, you're going to be overwhelmed with gratitude, and you're going to be overwhelmed with doing what God has intended you to do. And that's to live that life that you were intended to live. And once you find that out, folks, it makes everything around you bright. So bright.
True statement.
Yeah, you're not going to lie. I'm not going to lie too. When I was going in there in Congress and all that, man, I was scared to death. I was like, man, what am I doing? I've never done this before. I'm a landscaper. I'm a Marine. I'm a father, and now I'm going in here and I'm trying to sit down with lawmakers and try to figure out how to influence them to do the right thing on behalf of 20 million American veterans to bring that positive change, to turn my negative into a positive. And like I read all the time, if it scares you, do it.
Because step outside your comfort zone. Take yourself outside your comfort zone. You're supposed to.
Yeah. The comfort zone, and you've seen my chair, and I made myself very comfortable in the comfort zone. And I'm not a guy that sits down. I'm always a guy that's 150 miles an hour and never sits down. And for those 4 years when I lived that life of brutal hell, I learned a lot about myself, especially as I look back on it right now. And I know you've been there as well, and as Marcus as well. We've all had those chairs and those moments, but again, it's getting up. It's pulling yourself out of that dark place and really finding what you can be again, and recreate and reinvent and be, again, the man that we were intended to be. And again, once you find out what that purpose is, everything in your life will change for the, for the positive. So Morgan, I know you're a very, very busy man, but I want you to leave us with one thing for our listeners out there. What type of encouragement can you leave with our listeners out there today?
Something I always like to throw this out there, because I wish I'd have heard it when I was a boy. Don't ever let someone else's perception of you become your reality. And when somebody's on you hard and telling you you can't do this, or you're this, that, and the other, that's their opinion. Mm-hmm. Don't let that become your reality. If you don't do that, you can do anything you put your mind to. And that's this. I tell my boys that every time we have a conversation, if somebody's picking on them or talking ugly to them. I was like, don't ever let what anybody else say about you define you. Mm-hmm. Because chances are you're never going to see them again. So why would you hang on to that?
Yeah, one thing I've learned is that, you can't really, what somebody thinks of you, you can't really, and I know I've always been that guy because I'm a people pleaser, and I've always wanted to be a people pleaser. And now I've kind of changed that perspective on my life, and my life's good.
You can't make everybody happy. I try the same. I'm like you, Ron. I try as hard as I can to please it, and it just can't. And if you carry that weight around with you, it just make you sick.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, you're an honorable man. You're taking on a job that let's face it, nobody wants to do. It's a hard job. You're going to get beat up. Whether you go in there, if you go in there and do a great job, you're going to get beat up. Mm-hmm. If you go in there and do a horrible job, you're going to get praised and beat up. If you go in there and it's like, it doesn't matter. Like whatever's going to happen, you're going to have 50% that loves you, 50% that hates you. You're like, okay, I'm in there trying to work on behalf of the country here to make it all a better place for you and me. And it's like, your opinion, yes, it matters to me, but I can't hold on to that, because if I hold on to it, like you said, it's going to make you sick. And we need, a guy in there who's going to be healthy mentally and physically to make the hardest decisions, for our country moving forward. And I know we've got the right man for the job at this certain time right now in our nation's history. You're going to go in there, you're going to fight with honor, you're going to fight with courage, integrity, and all those hallmarks that you learned as a U.S. Navy SEAL. So with that, we're very, very, fortunate to have you representing the Texas's 8th Congressional District. And I am looking forward to working with you in Congress and bringing a lot of good, positive change to the table again. And folks, like Morgan said, if you're in the grocery store, you can approach them and talk to them. Citizen advocacy is what makes our country work, folks. Without your input, really, at the end of the day, without your input, what do we have, right? So he's very approachable. He's very friendly. He will.
I have a very intimidating resting face, but it's what I can't do anything about it. It's my face, So please, love to talk to me.
I love your face. But look, folks, you do have a voice. You can get involved. You can become an advocate, and you can fight honorably with what you fully believe in. Yeah, passion, you got purpose, you got a plan. Let's put it together. And Morgan Luttrell is ready to be that guy to represent you in an honorable fashion. So with that, we thank you for joining us today, Morgan. We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do in the military and veteran community. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication to our great nation is truly admirable.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me on the show, buddy.
Yes, sir. Until next time for Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night.